want lines to eat, there are 2 lines. Good afternoon. We're about to begin our program. Thank you. At this point, I would like to introduce our wonderful MC, but before I do, I want to thank each of you for attending NWHP's 5th Annual Conference in Washington, D.C., the center of politics, which is one of the reasons we convened today's luncheon. So as we begin, Ken Andre, a native of Florida, but who's stolen her here in Washington, is going to be your MC today. So please welcome Ken Andre, an Obama political appointee.
Bonjour. Okay. Eat a little bit, get some energy. We'll try it again later. How's everyone doing today? I'm really, really happy and proud to be here. Let's give a big round of applause to the staff, the organization, the leaders, the National Service Alliance, and the professionals. It's an honor to be here today because I get to moderate a really dynamic panel and introduce some amazing people that if they weren't on your radar before, they will be on your radar after today and will make you proud to say that you're a Haitian, Haitian American, of Haitian descent, whichever you choose. Our first speaker won a special place in my heart. First, we share the same first name, Colleen. Her parents spelled it correctly. In Kings County Hospital, they spelled mine K-A-R-E-N, but la caille, c'est Colleen Andre. But Colleen Jean-Pierre first stepped into my heart on the campaign trail when I met her working with Patrick Gaspard, at the time who was our political director for Obama in 2008. And Karine was part of that team, and she followed the president and Patrick into the White House and served in the political shop that helped the president pull the country back from the brink of disaster that was happening in 2009. She came back and helped the campaign in 2011 and 12, and then went on to academia, working at Columbia University, and now she'll tell you what she's doing at Move On, but she is a head mover and shaker at MoveOn.org. But most recently, you probably see her almost every night somewhere on CNN or MSNBC speaking truth to power. Let's give our sister a warm round of applause. Colleen Jean-Pierre.
Much smaller in person. Much smaller. Thank you so much, Mom. I love this lady so much. I mean, we have stories. We got to write a book about 2008 in Florida and the amazing work that Karen and her team did to really get the Haitian community involved and on board with what we were trying to do with open change and getting our first Black president elected in 2008. And then again, as you all know, in 2012. First of all, I am honored, beyond honored to be here. There are not many opportunities that you can come into a room and say, my people are here, and really be proud of meeting everyone that's here who have a great leadership role and pushing kind of the Haitian intelligence, the Haitian power forward in all the different aspects of this world, of this country, and whether it's government, corporate, or education. So it's a true pleasure to be here. So I'm supposed to talk about how I got into politics. And one thing that I hate to do is talk about myself, but I will do my best not to be too boring and just give you an insight of how I ended up where I am today. As Karen mentioned, I am now with an organization called MoveOn.org. It's a very progressive progressive liberal organization. It's been around for about 20 years, and it has 9 million members. And what we're doing right now is we're getting involved in this very important election cycle of 2016, which is, I believe, the most important election of our time because of who we have on the other side. And I'm not going to stick on that too much. If I do, I'll talk forever because that just makes me so angry, and I'm so terrified by what's going on in this election. But let me just start from how I got to the White House, essentially, how this Haitian immigrant, raised in New York, born in Martinique, ended up in the White House. So basically, I think like many young Haitian people, boys and girls, when you grew up, you're told you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going to be an engineer. And so that was my life for a very long time. I think when I was 5, my parents said, "Oh, you always wanted to be a doctor at the age of 5." And I was like, "Okay, I don't remember," but of course, you're my parents, and I'm going to take on that role because that's what Haitian kids do. They listen to their parents, and they want me to be a doctor. I'll go and do that. So I went on that path for a majority part of my young life, and got into medical school. I actually remember going into the summer of a medical program right after I graduated from undergrad, and it was just a bizarre moment where I decided this is not for me. This is not what I wanted to do. I didn't know what it is that I wanted to do, but I knew that this wasn't my path. And then I had to tell my parents. Yeah, so that was tough, to say the least. They were incredibly disappointed. Just to give you a little background on my parents, my dad has been a New York City cab driver for about 30 years, I think more. He's in his 70s, always been a hard worker. When he was in Haiti, he was an engineer and a teacher. When he came to the States, he became a New York City cab driver, and was very proud of it and was able to put us all through school. My mom is a home health care aide and has done that for more than 30 years as well. And so they are very proud people. And there's 3 of us. I'm the oldest of 3. And so their dream for us was to really be more successful than they were, right? To have more than they could have. So it was very hard to have a conversation with them to say, look, I'm going back to medical school. Thank you for paying for undergrad, but I'm not going to medical school. And so I did make a promise to them, which was that I was going to go to grad school. I just needed to work for about a year, figure out what it is that I wanted to do, but I would go to grad school. So I did that, did some not-for-profit work, and I decided that I was going to get a master's in public administration, and I went to Columbia University, got my master's in public administration. And it was an amazing experience because there at Columbia, I got to meet the first African-American mayor of New York City, who, as we all know, is David Dinkins, and he became a mentor. And that was my foray into politics, and I got to learn a lot about the inside world of politics and how that all worked, and how can I be involved and really try to change policy. And he convinced me along with others, he was like, you should try politics. Just try it, see if you really, really like it, and take a stab at it. So after I graduated from Columbia, did some local work in New York City Council. Then I thought, I think like most Haitians do, I want to go big. I want to go real. I want to go national. I don't want to do the local New York City Council. I want to take it to the national level. I want to actually maybe go see if I can work in the White House. That's what I thought. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but that's what I thought. And so moved to DC, took a job in DC for another non-for-profit, and just kind of really networked, met people, and put myself out there. And then when 2007 came around, I got to work on a presidential campaign. It was the John Edwards for President campaign. Of course, I got to move to North Carolina. My parents, I would talk to my parents from time to time. Of course, well, actually every day I would talk to my parents, and I would say, oh, I'm moving to North Carolina. They're like, why are you moving to North Carolina? To work on a presidential campaign. They're like, I don't know why you're doing this. You could have been a doctor, but okay, go move to North Carolina. And then I would call them 6 months later, I'm moving to South Carolina. What? You're moving to South Carolina? Yeah, this campaign thing, I gotta move to South Carolina. They're like, okay. And they were very kind. They would come and see me in North Carolina, make sure I was okay. We'd bring a big cooler of food, and then we'd put it in the freezer, and they would make sure I had food for as long as I was there. So So to get to the next chapter of that, so when John first dropped out of the election in 2007, when it didn't work out for him, I went back home to New York and I thought, like, I didn't know what I was going to do because I was really focused on this race for a year. But I was very blessed, I was very lucky. 3 months down the road, I got a call from the Obama campaign saying, hey, we want you to move to Chicago. We're setting up the general election campaign. We want you to move to Chicago and be part of the political team. And I just couldn't believe it because I was like, oh my God, of course, I want to be part of history. I want to elect the first Black president. So left New York, moved to Chicago. Again, my parents were like, okay, good luck, be safe, make sure you lock the doors and, all the things that Haitian moms love to tell you. Eat as much as you can, always. And love our Haitian mothers. And so I moved to Chicago, and it was a tough, hard, but yet amazing experience. It was 4 months of grueling and grinding and traveling. I got to meet then Senator Obama, which was an amazing honor. Got to travel with him, got to work with Patrick Gaspard. I'm sure most of you guys know who he is. He's now an ambassador to South Africa. Got to work with him very personally on this campaign. And it was just, there was no other moment or time like that. It was just phenomenal. Then of course went into the administration, and kind of the story kind of ends there really, because I went into the administration, and the first 2-3 years really helped cultivate and push forward the agenda, the platform of President Obama. It was also the time of the hurricane of 2010. I was there in the White House when that all happened, and worked closely with Vice President Biden and with Patrick on our response, and getting the Vice President down to Florida, as some of you may remember. And so I was part of some amazing opportunities that I never thought this young Haitian girl from Martinique, parents from Haiti, would ever be able to experience. So that is my kind of whirlwind, unexpected experience in this life of politics. I never ever thought this is where I would have ended up. And today, even what I've been doing for the last 6 months, not something that I had ever planned, which is having a voice, having a platform, and being able to talk about issues and policies that are important in the media, in front of TV. Never thought that I would have that experience at all. And I mean, someone said, hey, you should do punditry because you have this federal, national experience. You're just as good as all those white boys that are on there. You don't even have anything near to what your resume looks like. And I was like, oh, I think you're about right on that one. And so I tried it, and it just turned into a nonstop kind of domino effect. And so I've had this amazing experience of really having a voice on TV, not just as a woman or a Black woman, as so many other things that I am, but also as a Haitian. The Haitian family, the Haitian people have been the best advocate. They've shown me love over the last couple of months that I never thought that I would be able to receive. So I really appreciate that, and I love meeting everyone as I travel back and forth from here to New York and wherever else they want me, especially with these debates coming up. So that is essentially my story. I do want to say something about this election cycle. I am terrified, absolutely terrified by, and I'm not into name calling, but this person deserves all the name calling out there. And it's a demagogue. He is an absolute demagogue. And what we saw this past week was misogynistic, was sexist, and so, I'm not being told again. All right, so I'm going to stop here. But what I will say, and it's hard not to talk about this because, like I said, I'm in politics, and the least, I know Glenn was looking at me, she's like, please get out. Please, just vote. That's all I'm going to say. Like the president says, don't boo, vote. It is an incredibly important time in our country, and there's nothing more powerful than the power of voting. And I apologize if I've offended anybody by going into the direction that I went to, but you know, it's hard. I'm taking this really personally, so I apologize to anybody. But anyway, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
You all can do better than that. Please give Colleen Jean-Pierre a warm round of applause. She just took you on a very quick journey, but I hope that in the time after this luncheon, you all will try to speak with her one-on-one and learn more about all the adventures that come with putting yourself at the service of the public the way she has, and all the amazing points of history that she's seen on her journey. So thank you, Colleen, for sharing your journey. Before I announce our next speaker, I'd like to announce and acknowledge some dignitaries in the room. First, we have New York Assembly Member Woodley be short with us. Would you please stand and be acknowledged? Welcome. Thank you for being here with us. DC's very own Attorney General, the first elected Attorney General in Washington, D.C., our very own Haitian. Thank you for being here, Attorney General. Our distinguished host committee, led by Ambassador Paul Altidore. Yes. Ambassador. His staff is here. We had a wonderful reception last night, and so we thank Ambassador Altidore, as always. We also have present with us Ambassador Bushi Itmund. Oh, there he is. Yes, please go. Nice to see you, Ambassador. And also Ambassador Danielle Saint-Lô. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I'd also like to recognize the first Haitian American elected New York Civil Court judge from Kings County Court System, Judge Wendy Paul. Judge Paul, I was born in Kings County Hospital, so let's chat. So wonderful to have all these amazing people, trailblazers in their own right here. Please take a moment when you can to not only snap a photo, but not only get a business card, but really try to make a connection and build a rapport with these people and share some interesting background and hopefully next steps. Now, our next speaker is quite accomplished in his own right. He currently holds the title, as you see on the screen here. He's the Executive Vice President of Amex International. How many of you all with Amex cards knew that Ricardo Michel was working there representing us? Let's bring to the stage Mr. Ricardo Michel, Executive Vice President of Amex International. He will also share his personal journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first thank Colleen for that nice introduction and just clarify one point. Amex International, that I work for, is not to be confused with a financial services firm. However, if you care to lead me to Social Security and then the first board, I'll make sure I take care of that. But in all seriousness, thank you to Colleen, the organizers, for allowing me to join you here today. It's definitely a privilege also to ensure all protocols observed. I'd like to acknowledge the distinguished table and all of the excellencies, ambassadors, and congressmen here. And all of you. And I hope that these last 2 days for you, you found fruitful, particularly as we're trying to make connections that allow us to advance a number of things back in our home country, Haiti. Now, I've been invited here to share with you a bit of my Haitian heritage, my background in politics, and possibly offer you a few tips on how to become a political appointee, all in 5 minutes. So the short version is, I was a Haitian kid that grew up in Philadelphia, studied, worked hard, and ultimately got lucky. That's the story. Now, in that story, I want to really focus on a number of the commonalities. I would start by saying that, unlike some of my esteemed colleagues you were about to hear from, my foray into politics was, should I say, probably less deliberate or intentional. However, I did seize the opportunity. I fully attribute anything that one can define as my achievements, successes, or accomplishments to what I consider to be not just my Haitian heritage, but my Haitian foundation. It's more than just my love and appreciation for the vibrancy of the people, the culture, the music, the language, the art, and of course the food. My Haitian foundation is attributable to my parents and my family, and the principles that they instilled in me from a very young age, which have guided and supported me to this day. This foundation is one that is steeped in a focus on the importance of education, a hard work ethic, a sense of responsibility to help others no matter how little you think you may have, and a faith and conviction that in my DNA lies the strength to overcome any obstacles that I face, given the trials and tribulations Haitian people have overcome to become the first independent Black republic and have continued to persevere through to today. This foundation, as well as some luck, is why I have the privilege and honor of standing before you here today. Now, you may wonder why I say luck. Well, I define luck as when hard work and preparation meets opportunity. My family immigrated to Philadelphia when I was about 5 years old. My father, a self-employed mechanic, my mother, a domestic worker, sacrificed and worked tirelessly every day to nurture and raise 4 children. Through their efforts, my sister, 2 brothers, and I were given the opportunity to get an education in a country where we could pursue our dreams to their fullest. An even more special opportunity they gave me was a chance to experience my home country of Haiti by spending summer months with my grandmother in Port-au-Prince. It was this focus on education and hard work, not that my parents really gave us a choice on that, that resulted in my opportunity to receive a full academic scholarship to Temple University. It was this same focus on education and learning and hard work that allowed me to obtain my first professional certifications thereafter, and ultimately the opportunity to attend the top business school in the nation. It was this sense of responsibility that compelled me to reevaluate my successful investment banking career in New York after 9/11, to focus on applying my skills in the international development arena. Shortly thereafter, in 2002, I relocated my family to DC with the intent to learn about development and with an aspiration to someday be in a position to be able to help Haiti. As I garnered experience throughout Africa and the developing world, primarily focusing on economic development, and cultivated relationships both here and on the continent, my passion for helping others in a sustainable way was deep. So, how did I ultimately become a political appointee? I was lucky. I received a call from a former colleague who I met when I first arrived in DC. She knew my work ethic, she knew my passion, and thought I knew what I was doing. She also happened to know people on the Obama transition team. And she said, I was asked to help identify some good talent for the administration. Would you be interested? Send me information. Fast forward 6 months from there, I received a call from presidential personnel. I worked with the White House team and ultimately was appointed to USAID. While at USAID, I was able to pivot from a primarily Africa-focused portfolio to a more global portfolio, which allowed me to begin to contribute to Haiti. In my role there as a director, I oversaw a portfolio that included programs in the mobile arena, programs which launched efforts with GG7, voila, post-earthquake to help promote mobile banking and financial transactions. Through my oversight of the agency's public-private partnership efforts, I worked with the likes of Coca-Cola to create a market for Haitian mango farmers through the Haiti Hope Project. And now, after transitioning from the administration this past February, I continue to pursue my passion as the Executive Vice President of an international development consulting firm. poised to work to help Haiti and others around the world in a sustainable fashion that preserves the interests of the people there. So, in closing, what are my tips to you? Take strength in your foundation. Pursue your passion. Work hard at whatever it is you do. Stay ready for opportunities that will come your way, and you will be lucky. So with that today, I know I'm lucky to be here, and I look forward to the opportunity of meeting several of you and continue to collaborate in how we advance the dialogue, as we heard this morning, in an effort to help our brother in need. Thank you.
Let's give Mr. Michel another round of applause. In my recognition earlier, I did not recognize a very important member of our dignitaries here. He flew all the way from Haiti to be with us today. He has been a tireless advocate for the Haitian diaspora in Haiti. He's introduced legislation, he's fought, he's stood up for the Haitian diaspora, and we could not go on another second without asking him to stand. Congressman from Pétionville, Mr. Jerry Tadjou. Thank you so much for all your hard work, Congressman, and welcome. Thank you for being with us. Okay, now I can move on to business. Now I took care of what I'm supposed to take care of. We have another speaker today that is really a person in the administration that makes us all really proud to serve with her. She is Dr. Nadine Gracia. She's a first-generation Haitian American and is currently the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Minority Health and the Director of the Office of Minority Health at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Now, anyone who serves in the administration, the acronym that one uses for Deputy Assistant Secretary is DAS. And when you're serving in the administration, you know a DAS is pretty high up in the chain of power and of command. And so to have a Haitian American serving at that level at the Department of Health and Human Services is something that I count as a personal privilege to have to say I'm her colleague in the administration right now. But I'll go on with her amazing career and her bio. The Office of Minority Health, which she leads, is dedicated to improving the health of racial and ethnic minority populations through the development of health policies and programs that will help eliminate health disparities. She's a pediatrician with epidemiology training, and she was previously a clinical instructor at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and a clinical instructor and research fellow at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where she conducted research on community risk factors for violence. She joined the federal government as a White House Fellow. Again, contextualizing for you, one of the most prestigious and competitive processes is to become and be named a White House Fellow. You go through several rounds of interviews nationally and then regionally and get to be part of a cohort of less than 20 people chosen nationally to be a White House Fellow yearly. And Dr. Gracia made that cut a few years ago. And when she came, she was assigned to an agency, Health and Human Services, and later to the Office of the First Lady. She most recently served as Chief Medical Officer in the Health and Human Services Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health, where her portfolio included child and adolescent health, disaster preparedness, environmental health, global health, Haiti recovery, and the White House Council of Women and Girls. She also led the development of the 2012 HHS Environmental Justice Strategy. Just, in her spare time, she does all these amazing things. Dr. Gracia holds a Bachelor of Arts in French from Stanford University, a medical degree from the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and a Master of Science in Clinical Epidemiology from the University of Pennsylvania. Ms. Ami, please, let's give a round of applause. That's right, Ms. Ami. It's Dr. Nadine Gracia.
Thank you, Karen, for that incredible introduction. We should all
position at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, serving as the White House liaison. Alors, comment? Qui j'en nous sentimos? Est-ce que nous en forme? It is such an honor for me to participate in such an important gathering and conference of Haitian professionals, and I am truly humbled to be here and speak to you today. I too join in acknowledging and recognizing the elected officials who are here, the dignitaries who are here, as well as the leadership of the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals, Dr. Wilkerson Colbert and Monsieur Serge Renaud, for their important leadership of this organization, as well as Mademoiselle Claire Mesidor, who brought this concept to this conference of bringing my colleagues who have served or currently serve in the Obama administration to speak with you today. You know, being with all of you, it feels like home, where we share such a deep respect and appreciation for our heritage, for our culture, and for our language, where we are driven and committed to excellence and progress for all of our people, and where we can have some lighthearted debates. I'm sure you have them in your family as well. When my mother is cooking dinner, half the family is asking for dîner national, and the other half is asking for dîner I don't know. I won't say which price is better. Or where my uncles challenged each other when I was a little kid learning how to play dominoes, and they would pound the dominoes on the table shouting "Decabes." Or my cousins of different generations who argue about which Haitian band plays the best football. You see it happening already. As I thought about the message that I would share with you, I reflected on the questions that are often posed to me. How do you get to this position of impact to truly make a difference? And what inspired me as a doctor to enter into the field of policy? And my answer and my message to you, and as you're hearing from my colleagues, is opportunity and the honor of public service. You know, I stand here today because of the investment that others have made in me. Through every step of my journey, my faith and my family, my mentors, my friends and colleagues have helped me to stay grounded in who I am. And my parents remain to this day the most important role models in my life. They came to the United States from the southern part of Haiti, from La Ville and Trinidad, not to escape the politics or poverty, but my mother was actually an elementary school teacher and my father was a high school principal. But they believed in America to be this nation of opportunity unlike any other, and in that they found the courage to leave everything that was familiar to them. They had the strength to start again. And in the US, my mother's first job was as a live-in nanny. My father painted boats for just $1.75 an hour. But they never felt compelled to have to tell their boss or their coworkers what their former professions were in Haiti, because they knew that respect would be earned by the quality of their work and not the title that they held. I was born and raised in Northern California. I know usually when I say that I get the surprising look. Yeah, there you go. But I usually just say, I see a chicote. But seriously, we were one of the few Haitian families and people of color in our community, which did make it hard at times as I was growing up to embrace the duality of our culture. Yet ours was a house that was filled with family, my grandmothers, our aunts and uncles and cousins who followed in my parents' footsteps to the United States. In our home where everyone had a hand in raising me, I learned to take pride in the richness of our culture and traditions, the beauty of our language, and the depth of our faith. And I know that many of you can tell stories that are similar to mine, because it's who we are as a community. It's who we are as Haiti's diaspora. Haiti became the root of my passion to serve others, especially for those who have the least. And throughout my education and career, there have been significant moments where our beloved Haiti and her people keep the flame of my passion for service burning bright. And they also lift me up during the difficult and challenging times. I became a physician because I thought that was the means for me to fulfill this desire to serve. And while I felt privileged to be a pediatrician and care for children, I had long been drawn to working in this space of public health and policy because I wanted to be able to use my voice. I wanted to be able to use my experience as a physician to advocate for the health and well-being of entire communities by also addressing the societal challenges that families face each and every day. And it was indeed a transformational year as a White House Fellow that helped open the doors of opportunity for me to evolve as a leader to do so. And it was one of my mentors who told me about this program and wouldn't let me forget and pushed me and encouraged me to apply for this program. As White House Fellows, we worked at the highest levels of federal government. We met with national and local leaders in the public and private sectors, from Supreme Court justices to corporate executives to heads of foundations to mayors and governors, learning about their successes and challenges in leadership. We traveled around the country as well as internationally on policy trips so that we could understand the impact of U.S. policy on areas such as education, the economy, and national security. And throughout my fellowship year, my classmates, they stretched me. They pushed me to think about issues in ways I hadn't considered before. They uplifted me to be bold in my dreams, and from them I understood even more the power of surrounding yourself with people of diverse minds who sharpen you and make you strong. Now, the White House Fellowship was an incredible experience, and it left my classmates and me wondering what would be the next steps in our career. And I chose to stay in government because of my passion for public service, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to become the Chief Medical Officer to the Assistant Secretary for Health. I have to admit, though, as excited as I was, I still didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing, and I questioned whether I made the right decision and whether I was prepared. And on January 12th, only 8 days after starting my position, I got my answer. I was in a meeting with the Assistant Secretary for Health when the news came that the 7.0 earthquake had struck Haiti. We can all remember that devastating day. In those intense hours immediately after the earthquake, where I didn't even know if my cousins, I had cousins who lived in Port-au-Prince and right outside of the capital, didn't even know if they had survived the earthquake. I was thrust into meetings with senior federal officials to assist with the U.S. government response. And I was so proud to see how the diaspora mobilized to help Haiti. Organizations of Haitian physicians and nurses and other healthcare providers who stepped up to help Haiti in crisis. And I reached out to one of my mentors who had been there for me since the time that I was in medical school. Some of you may know him, Dr. Henri Ford, who is a Haitian-American pediatric surgeon. Yes, indeed. He wanted desperately to get to Haiti and lend assistance, and we arranged for him to be on one of the disaster response teams. And I remember when I was speaking to him as he waited to board the plane from Miami to Port-au-Prince, and I just felt tears welling up in my eyes as I thought about my mentor and the relationship that we had for so many years and how that was forever transformed because now we were working together to help the people of Haiti. And when I arrived in Haiti for the first time after the earthquake, this time as a government official, not as a kid on a trip with your parents going to visit family, I was struck by the responsibility that I now have. It was a chance to return to the place where everything from my family's past to the passion that drives my work in the present comes together. And I've returned to Haiti since that initial trip, including a visit with the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. And even amidst the destruction, the destroyed buildings, and the people who continue to live in tents, and the tragedy that we knew was still present, I was proud as I watched U.S. officials witnessing the resilience of the Haitian people. Witnessing and learning about the history of the powerful monuments and symbols such as the Nigma in Haiti. Each trip was an overwhelming and often indescribable feeling of honor and humility. And every night as I lay down to rest, I thought of my childhood dreams to somehow get back to my family's homeland, and it made me remember the words in Scripture to delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. I must say that Scripture has come true for me on many occasions. It did so when I was later appointed as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Minority Health. It was though as everything was seeming to come full circle, and at such a remarkable moment of opportunity in our nation's history to serve in the administration of such an amazing leader as our President, the first Black President of the United States. And now in my current role, I advise the Secretary of Health and Human Human Services, the Assistant Secretary for Health, and other senior leaders on policies and programs that impact the health and well-being of minority communities. And in leading the Office of Minority Health, our mission is to ensure that we improve the health of communities of color in the U.S. and end the health disparities that have far too long plagued our country. What has been among our greatest accomplishments in this administration is that we're working across sectors to improve health, because we know health is not just determined by what happens when you're in the doctor's office or when you're in the hospital. Because if parents are struggling to put food on the table, if kids don't have a safe place to play in their neighborhoods or going to poor quality schools, or there isn't access to grocery stores in the community where they sell healthy foods that are affordable, all of these things impact our health. So our office, for example, works with the White House, with the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, and other federal agencies and communities all across this country to work on policies and programs such as how we address the violence that's happening in our communities, to reduce and prevent youth violence, for example, by bringing together public health and law enforcement to address violence. Or being able to promote more positive school climates and environments for our kids, so that we can end these higher rates of suspensions and expulsions that are happening in our school settings for minority students. And that starts as early as preschool. We're engaging with the private sector on initiatives to increase access to capital for businesses to establish grocery stores in disadvantaged communities. And we're working with healthcare systems, with providers and universities to implement training and practices that are respectful of and responsive to the cultural health beliefs and language needs of the patients and communities that they serve. And every time we work in this space, I think of my own family. I think of all the remedies that they gave to me when I was growing up, and I still tell my mom, I need a little bit of Flintstone. As I think about my career in policy up to now and my experience in the Obama administration, I realize how much where my family is from and the values that they have instilled in me have shaped how I lead. Indeed, through Haiti, I found my calling and purpose. Whether it's the story of my family's journey to the United States, or the summer I spent in Haiti after college, where I worked with a family medicine physician in the northern part of Haiti in Italy. And one day we had to tell a pregnant woman that her baby had died in her womb, but she had no transportation to get to the hospital. And we had to figure out a way to get her access to the care that she needed. Or the wise advice that I received from a Haitian woman in Flatbush, New York, when I was doing a health event there. She was 100 years old, and she was continuing to give me advice on how to continue to succeed. Or the many Haitian professionals, such as yourself, that I have worked with over the years. These experiences have inspired my passion and commitment to equity and opportunity for all. And I can assure you that there is not just one path to a position of impact, and that we, as Haiti's diaspora, can and do play an important role in every field that we pursue. I often tell students and those whom I mentor or others who ask about my career and how you find that passion. And I say, you know, your January 12th will come. It may be soon or it may be more distant. It may manifest itself as several small occasions, or it may be one big event like an earthquake in Haiti. But no matter how it is revealed to you, it will unlock a profound understanding and appreciation of all of the training and education and work that you've gone through, the relationships that you have built, the faith that may have strengthened you, and the passion that is deep within you. And with that opportunity, you must be prepared for it. Be of good courage to seize it, and be determined to make the most of it. And to never stop sharing your story and never forget your beginnings. You know, the activist and civil rights leader Mahatma Gandhi said once that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. May that philosophy continue to guide us, our community, and IET Share for many years to come.
Thank you again, Dr. Garcia. Did I not tell you how amazing she is? What an inspiration. And I find here, living in Washington, that it's always the quiet ones that are the powerhouses. They move into the room like Kylie, Dr. Gracia, Attorney General Wesley, very quiet, no fanfare, and then you find out, y'all did Jose. Thank you, Dr. Gracia, for deposing today. I make my own words, I'm trying to keep it light. All right, guys, so now we have the second part of this program. Obviously, we've been hearing from Haitian Americans in politics, and we have another stellar lineup, the second half, you'll see on the stage, on the screen here. You'll notice that starting with Kalisha DeSous, all of the names and the titles say Washington political strategist behind it. The reason is none of us are here, except for Dr. Gracia, speaking in our professional capacity. As representatives of our positions, we would have to ask the ethics department in our agencies if we could speak on behalf of the agency, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the administration, and we are not clear to do that. So we are here to make it very clear for anyone Snapchatting, anyone Facebook Living, Kalina is here in her personal capacity, not as the title that was mentioned earlier, because that is not an authority that I have to speak on behalf of the government of the United States. There's one person you elected to do that, correct? Okay, so I want to make that clear. So everyone that I'm about to announce does hold a position in the administration. They may tell you their position, but they're here to share with you their personal journey, their pathway as a Haitian American in politics. So in no particular order, I'll just start with the order on the screen. This is one of my favorite young rising stars in the administration. Her name is Kalisha DeSous, and she's a Washington political strategist. Welcome. Please come and have a seat. Next, I'll bring my old friend, Leonard Joseph, another Washington political strategist, to the stage. They'll all tell you more about what they do. Welcome, Leonard. And I'd also like to call to the stage Sarah Rutherford. You know the title. And Shelley Mark. Anyone here from Florida? Shelley's a Florida girl. From New York, so is Leonard. Sarah? Florida, okay, all right, we got Florida and New York. And last but certainly not least, they placed her title prior to the one that she's here as a Washington political strategist, but she was holding a very special title as the former special advisor to the ambassador of Haiti, Paul Alton, that was mentioned here earlier. Please give a warm welcome for Tamar Harrigan, another Floridian. Okay, folks, so kudos again to NAHP for getting this stellar lineup together. What we're going to do is pass the microphone. They'll take a minute just to tell you who they are, you've heard where they're from and what they do. And then I'll ask them questions to draw out more of how they got to where they are and what they'd like to share with you about their journey. So starting with Shelley, please, we have the Can you hear? Speak up. Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shelley Mark, and I work with the Office of Public Engagement at the White House as a staff assistant in policy.
Hello.
Yes. Sorry. In that capacity, I work on criminal justice reform, and also I assist with the Afghan portfolio.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Rutherford. I'm a press assistant in the Office of Communications at the White House. I serve under the Press Secretary, Josh Ernest, and I also serve as an intermediary between the press and the president, and allow him to get access to coverage for him and have remarks and events.
So let me add a little context. So that means she works for Valerie Jarrett. That means she works with Josh Ernest, who you see doing all the White House press briefings. Okay, go on. Just, no big deal.
Hi everyone, my name is Kalisha DeSous. I'm a policy advisor to the White House Council on Women and Girls, where I direct the President's portfolio on advancing equity for women and girls of color. So my bosses are Valerie Jarrett, who's the chair of the White House Council on Women and Girls, and Tina Chen, who is assistant to the President, chief of staff to the First Lady, and director of the White House Council on Women and Girls.
Awesome.
Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. I am, thank you, Tamara Harrigan. I am currently advisor for intergovernmental relations in the Office of Congressional and Intergovernmental Relations at the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
That's right.
Good afternoon. My name is Leonard Joseph. I joined the administration in 2009. I have been in the Department of Homeland Security the whole time. I was the chief of staff of the Office of Policy, and then I was the principal deputy assistant secretary over at the Office of Policy. And 2 years ago, I joined Immigration Customs Enforcement as the chief of staff.
Fantastic. Let's, again, give a welcome to our panelists. So, I'm going to citation Oprah, and ask you all some questions. This is exciting. All right. Okay, great. So let's just start off. What drew you, and raise your hand who wants to answer this first, but what drew you to public service? How did you get started in your life in public service? Any particular person, or should I go down the lane? All right. Gluttons for punishment, Leonard.
So, completely by accident. Completely by accident. So, just to give you a little context, grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York.
Yeah.
Parents wanted me to be a lawyer. Shocking. And I wanted to make my parents happy. There was nothing more that I wanted to do than make my parents happy. So I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I realized at a really young age that being dyslexic and being a lawyer are not impossible, but they are very, very difficult. And when I realized that I could probably read a page and a half in about an hour, it made me think, this is maybe not the field for me. And it took me some time to sort of found my footing, but many people here talked about some names that you'll know and very familiar with. I got to meet David Dinkins in New York. I worked side by side with Patrick Gaspar. I got involved in my first campaign, and I realized it didn't pay very well, but it gave a tremendous amount of responsibility at a very young age. And they kept on giving you more responsibility. The pay didn't meet the responsibility, but it was so fulfilling for me to be able to take on that responsibility, to not only engage with communities, but ultimately, after a couple of jobs, I spent a lot of my time recruiting people to run for Congress. I worked with the DCCC for a couple of years. I did that.
Hold on. Do the Washington, D.C. acronyms.
Sorry.
What's the DCCC?
I worked at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and I was one of their political directors. I was in charge of recruitment for candidates nationally. And then,
Well, so your entry point was working on the Dinkins campaign, and you said
Ruth Messenger campaign, actually. Ruth Messenger, she ran for mayor in '97.
in New York.
In New York, yeah.
So that was your first time.
First time.
And you just felt the need to serve and learn that way.
Absolutely.
And this was through your friend Patrick that helped pull you in?
He and I actually shared a desk.
So there, isn't that interesting? The current ambassador from the U.S. to South Africa and Leonard shared a desk working on a campaign back in 1997. Who knew 20 years later that he would be here working now in DHS representing the government, and now Patrick is working in Pretoria or Durban? Pretoria, South Africa. So that's how political careers begin. You're just sitting next to someone and God knows where it goes from there, right? Tomorrow, you want to take the question next?
Sure. Truthfully, I don't remember where it actually started, but I remember in college, I got an internship to work for then state representative Ed Jennings.
And Ed Jennings is currently a regional administrator for HUD, representing the Southeast region. And I walked into his office on day one, and he said to me, I'm going to get out of you what I need. So what is it that you want to get out of this experience? And at the moment, I didn't know, and I was like, maybe one day I'll run for office. And he's like, I totally believe that one day you could be the first Haitian senator from the state of Florida. I said, okay, no problem. But Ed, we said that in jest, but Ed did sit me down and taught me everything he knew about the legislative process. Karen can attest to this. I met her a few years later, but I graduated from college from the University of Florida, go Gators. And then from there, I started working for the Florida legislature. And I worked for a member who got sick and didn't show up. So here I was, brand new legislative aide. I'd spent a couple of years under Ed's tutelage, but here I was on my own in an office by myself. I relied on the resources that I had. I put my ego at the door, and I asked for help. My boss didn't show up, and I got 3 of these bills passed out of committee onto the floor that I had to represent myself. A long time ago. So he came up for the last couple of days and was surprised to find out that he had bills on the floor, and one of which was on its way to the Senate, and then eventually sent to the governor to be signed into law. Alicia?
So I would say for me what drew me into public service was educational opportunity and access, just thinking about that at large. I had a very easy life. I had a very just end of the dead end street. Mother dropped me off.
That cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac,
Okay.
yeah.
Try to hide it.
I had a very easy life, and my parents did not have a very easy life, and I think that is very often the story of folks who are the daughters and sons of Haitian immigrants, right? So the context of my life was my dad. My mom came to Brooklyn when she was young. She was 6. My dad didn't come until he was 19 or 20 years old, 24 immigrants, and he came in and within a month enrolled in NYIT. For an engineering degree without speaking English at all. And that semester in school both learned English and learned engineering at the same time. And graduated in 4 years and got his master's and went on to work for Procter & Gamble as a mechanical engineer for 20 years and now is the VP of operations for a company in Brooklyn. And it was his work and his hard work and educational access that gave me and my 3 sisters a very just polished and easy life. When I was graduating my senior year at Cornell, I had some offers at investment banking firms and other firms in New York, and a pit in my stomach told me that the struggles of my parents were not for me to have those jobs. It just told me that the struggles of my parents were not for me to have those jobs. So I instead went to teach math and science in Philadelphia, where I fell in love with kids and students, where I taught in low-income communities, 100% students of color, and where I probably learned more from them than I taught them because I just knew nothing about those communities and some of the obstacles and challenges of those communities. And really believing that education and access was their way out. It was their way out of poverty. It was their way out of health disparities, economic disparities. And then taking it one step further, I decided to really think about where I was from, where my parents were from, and what it was for kids there. So I actually went and ended up first volunteering and then chairing the board of an organization called Project Teach Haiti that basically is a cohort of American and Canadian, Haitian American and Haitian Canadian teachers who go down to Haiti every year and run professional development seminars for Haitian teachers. And there I was able to interact with students in Haiti, and I learned that continuum of my education versus the education of the students I taught in Philadelphia, those weren't the two ends of the extremes, right? When I went down to Haiti, I learned about a whole other world, but still what tied everything together was that idea of educational access and opportunity and wanting to serve kids, both internationally and domestically.
Fantastic, thank you. I'll pass the microphone.
I think I got interested in public service through a different lens. I studied broadcast journalism in undergrad, and for me, I've always been interested in media and helping to tell people's stories. So when I got to college and I went on a bull ride, sponsored by this guy named Julie Robertson, who's a billionaire, and he sort of just paid for us all to go to school, but it's Robinson Scholarship, and he really believes in service and leadership. And so he asked all of the students to use money that he gave us to do internships every summer. And so I use those to go and do media projects where I would talk to students about how they wanted to change their education system in New Orleans, and mentoring under-resourced kids in Argentina. And so for me, I came into it first trying to do documentary storytelling, and then trying to use the work that I was doing there to help lift their voices. And that's how I ended up coming to the White House and interning first in the Office of Communications, and then now as a full-time staff.
So my story is similar to Leonard. My parents really wanted me to go to law school, and I still want to go to law school, so there's still hope there. So I went off to college at the University of South Florida in Tampa, and I started off in student government and also interning locally at some representatives in the local area, and just getting my feet wet there. I was in student government for 3 years, and then eventually I graduated and didn't know what I was going to do next, and I was very scared, and my parents were like, oh, perfect, you can stay home and study for the LSAT. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of here. So I applied for the best internship in DC with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. They have an internship and a fellowship program where a lot of people could not afford to actually be in DC. I know my parents could afford to pay for living here. So they pay for your housing and also provide you with a stipend, and put you in an office, a congressional office on the Hill. So I was placed in Senator Joe Brandt's office for a semester, and I got hired after. Yay. So then I worked there for 2 years. I met a great mentor, and she eventually, I was like, I think I want to go to the White House. It wasn't that easy. It took a while, a lot of pitching. I got an interview, and I did the job, and now I have lots of public engagement, and it's been over a year now. The best experience I've ever had. And I'm going to law school mom and dad, so you can stop asking.
Thank you, everyone. Very interesting. Everyone had a different entry point. You just campaign, you internship, because were you a political science major? No, not a political science major. History and public relations. You, dedication to education through your father's example and commitment and work ethic. You wanted to tell stories. I can't wait to see the stories you're going to tell, both about your experience and about the community and you. So what drew you to student government? Were you always interested in politics, or just a student leader?
I would have to say my dad. He's always like, turn that off, you need to watch the news, and really big on that. So I feel like politics has always been a part of my life, and I knew how important it was and how much influence the politicians and everyone around me had. So I always was interested in being an attorney and went to practice. And I think with the curriculum of being a political science major, you just naturally take government courses, and then from there, it just
Let's talk about being Haitian in politics, right? Being Haitian in America and politics. What, from your upbringing, your heritage, your background, your parents, some of you referenced it a little bit, has helped serve you in your journey? For instance, like I'll just start giving you a chance to think. I grew up in a very politicized Haitian household. The radio was always on. We're always listening to the news, not just locally, but around the world. I knew national and world leaders more so than most American kids, because Haitian parents not just listen to Haitian politics, American politics, but elsewhere in the Latin and Caribbean region, and sometimes international. Plus, we love music everywhere. So I already had a finer tuned ear for service and for politics and for global politics at a young age, just because of my Haitian heritage and my background. So that's just an example. What can you say being Haitian brought to your experience here and on your journey in politics?
So growing up, it was like and T-my-share. So my parents are small business. Legacy, Leco, Lakai, and T-my-share. So the flea market was like my second home. My parents were small business owners, so I think that that really influenced my life. On the weekends, when everyone else was going to birthday parties or hanging out with their friends, my mom was like, no, you're going to the flea market and you just learn how the business is ran. And I just remember crying every day, like every weekend, like why do I have to go? But I learned so much about engaging with people in the business and money and the importance of working. And that really set me apart from a lot of my counterparts, because when I went into the working field, I knew exactly, like, I need to really bust my butt so that I can impress people, so they'll see that I'm worth hiring. And I think that also influenced whoever, when I got the job in Senator Joe Grant's office, I didn't even apply. They came up to me and were like, we noticed everything you're doing, and we would really like to ask you a few questions. And then at the end, I'm like, is this an interview? They're like, yes, it's an interview. And I'm like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, I got the job. So I think the experience of my parents making sure that I knew what hard work was and going to the flea market every weekend. And eventually, by the age of 16, when I could drive, I was running once by myself. My dad was in Tampa, my mom was in Miami. So that experience really taught me a lot, especially my work right now with engaging with people, making sure that they know what's going on in the president's initiatives.
Yeah, I think for me, it's part of that, always hearing from my parents about, how hard they work and their dedication to the community. My dad is actually a pastor in Georgia now, so that has really inspired me. But I would say because the Haitian community is just so close, it's like you can never just find one. Like even this, I'm just like so blessed to be in the room with so many beautiful people and to see all of you guys coming together. But it's really influenced me and how I think about moving through the world and just always trying to make sure that you're making room for other people and you're just being inclusive. And when you do have a platform and you have the opportunity to invite diversity into your workplace, whether that be for me in media, I know we were thinking about who's going to get to interview the president and who are we going to get to cover this event. We always need to be thinking about not just the Washington Post is coming, not just the New York Times, but what local papers can we have? Can we have the Miami Herald come for this? And so just making sure there's always inclusivity and diversity. And I think that just isn't in a media space, but in wherever you are, public engagement in business, if you're in a position to hire anyone. And if you're not in a position to hire, if you're in a position to mentor, which we all are, just making sure that you're always making room for other people and bringing other people up with you.
So unlike Shelley, I did not have that influence of politics in my life growing up, not American politics at all. It's actually been an honor and a privilege to be working for this president and to actually pull in my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles into this world of American politics. Like it was, I remember last Thanksgiving, I explained to them the whole political process and Democratic primaries and the Republican primaries and how all of that works, and it was really cool to be able to do that. For me, I would say the one key thing about Haitian culture that really relates to my job now is just relationship building. That is like the center and the core of the work that I do. And respect and relationships were just two things that were so important to me growing up. I remember going to, your classic Haitian party, whether it was a first communion or a graduation, whatever it was, and you get in and you have to 50 lots of all the grown moon, and then, all 50 of them. And then your dad would be like, did you not say hi to Toto Pierre? And I'm like, I don't know Toto Pierre. I still don't know him. He's gonna have to come to my wedding one day, but I still don't know him. I just remember that, and it was that idea of really strengthening relationships. My dad has 7 full sisters, and he has 18, half siblings. My mom has 3 full sisters and 9 other half siblings. So it's a big family that I have, and a text to Tati Maggie is not enough. Like I have to call her, I have to engage with her, I have to make sure I'm speaking to all my cousins and my grandma, and they take it so seriously. And I learned the importance of just strengthening relationships and fostering relationships and what it actually means to give to a relationship, and that's just really the core of the work that I do. Yeah, great, thank you.
I was one of those kids, very nerdy. I ran for class president and vice president and all of those things, so I've probably been pretty political all my life. I think for me, my uncle, my mom's full brother. We all have a half uncle person. My mom's full brother was a congressman in that one.
Another panel.
My bad. So he was a congressman in Haiti, and during his tenure was arrested and never saw a judge. And unfortunately, it is the reality of the difficult situation sometimes that exists in Haiti. And he got arrested. I think I might have been either in high school or had just graduated high school, I don't remember. But it really, as we say now, woke me up, and I felt compelled to stay woke. When, although my entrance into Florida politics was with an African American from Central Florida, knew nothing about Haiti, probably didn't know where it was. When I graduated, I landed a job with the first Haitian American state representative in Miami. And being at the table, being able to advocate for Haitians became my passion, became the thing that drove me. I wish we could have done more. We changed a lot of street names in North Miami Beach area in the district, I'm sure you guys know. So all of those names, we passed the legislation to change those names to represent heroes for the community that lived there. But needing to advocate and speak for those who didn't have a voice, those who weren't invited to the table, is probably the reason.
I'll just agree with everybody who spoke before me, but I'll add one thing. Most people call it a meal. I called it an interrogation. Every time at dinner when we got together, what did you do? How did you do it? Why did you do it? How much did you do? Why did you do it that way? Why did you do it this way? Why did you do it like this or that or this? Okay. I think some of you have been to my house before. What I learned is you need to be on top of all of your details. And it's embedded for all of us because we've had it, if not every night, most nights. And when you think of the things professionally that people look for, I always think about it in a couple of ways. I call them minders, grinders, finders.